Welcome everybody to our annual webinar, our May webinar, which is supports for CHW for COVID response and resilient communities and our CCR work. So as we begin, before we actually dive into all the content and all the amazing resources we're going to get into, we definitely just want to quickly go through our translation and closed captioning information for you all so everyone can listen in and access everything in the best way possible for them. So just a heads up, our interpreters are Julio and Adriana, and this meeting will have simultaneous Spanish interpretation. As a participant, you will need to choose a language, either English or Spanish, to listen in Zoom. If you do not choose a language, you will not be able to hear the presentation, which is not great. So basically in your meeting/webinar controls, click interpretation, click the language you would like to hear. And of course, it's optional to hear the interpreted language only. You just click mute on the original audio. You can see in the image, that is where the translation icon is on your Zoom. Right. And our closed captioning instructions for you all. This Zoom webinar will have annotated closed captionings. Closed captioning can be turned on or off throughout today's meeting. And to manage closed captioning on your computer or laptop, click the CC live transcript, select show or hide, subtitle to view captions, and you can also select view full transcript to see the entire written transcript from today's meeting. And of course, to manage closed captioning on your mobile device, if you are on that, go to your Zoom controls and click meeting settings, and you can use the toggle button to turn on and off closed captioning. So that is just a little bit of information before we dive into everything. So awesome. So welcome, everybody. Like I mentioned before, welcome to our supports for CHW for COVID response and resilient communities, CCR work. So the Envision team is super excited for today and grateful for the opportunity to once again be in community with you all, share the space, and have the opportunity to work alongside each of you. The purpose of this month's webinar is to make sure you as recipients have full access and full grasp of the resources available to you all. Who are your people? What are your resources? Where can you find these resources, and how can we make these resources and information easier to understand and utilize for recipients? So for the purpose of elevating the CHW workforce and all the work that you all do. And I guess a little bit about myself, for those who might or might not know, or this might be the third or whatever time we tell you, my name is Jamal, and I'm a trainer with Envision Equitable Healthy Communities Training and Technical Assistance Center. I'm currently located in Milwaukee, where I have deep roots and been doing community work and CHW work over the course of 3, 4, or 5 years, and most of my CHW work has been rooted in LGBTQ+ health promotion, as well as anti-violence advocacy and equity, as well as sexual health education. And also now I will be transitioning into more work and CHW work and leadership as the CHW Council lead. And you'll hear more about that a little bit later, but that is a little bit about myself. And now we'll move on to our operating agreements. So we do also recognize that much of today's webinar will be content delivery and very content heavy, but we do have some specific operating agreements around Zoom. So just remembering to stay on mute when you aren't talking. Use the chat box for questions, and you can write these questions throughout the webinar, and there will be time to ask questions after each presentation that we have. And for the sake of time, we'll probably be able only to answer maybe 2 of those questions after each presentation, but the goal is to have some time potentially at the end to get to questions or thinking points that you all might have towards the end. So, and also do what you need to do to take care of yourself. Realize that life is happening. Life is always happening. Some of us are at work and the only ones there. There's a multitude of things that we might have to do, but definitely take care of yourself and do what you need to do to stay engaged. All right, so just a quick snapshot of today's agenda. We're going to, go through our overview of Envision, our Quick Start 2.0, a little bit more about who is Envision, going to our CHW Council, as well as CHW coaching, training overview. We'll dive deeper into our evaluation and TA, and also look into the what's what around COVID, CHW workforce development and evaluation supports. And then we'll move right into our next steps and wrap things up. All right, so who is Envision? So the Envision Equitable Healthy Communities CHW Training Center is composed of community health workers and community health worker allies who work together with financial and administrative support from the CDC to elevate the role of CHWs in COVID response and recovery. Envision Equity supports the CDC funded program, CHWs for COVID response and resilient communities, which uses the acronym CCR, and you'll continue to see and hear from all of us. And you can find details about the initiative and who the funded organizations are from the link in the chat, which I can drop or someone else can drop. But yes, awesome. Yep. So Sherry's already on that and dropping that. So yeah, so Envision has been developed for CHWs by CHWs. Our project encompasses the CHW movement as a whole and trains, supports CCR recipients and their partners and CHW programs and CHWs, concentrating on capacity building and sustaining a strong, capable CHW workforce. Now, I'm going to go into our Quick Start 2.0 and I'll pass it over to Sherry.
Thanks, Jamal. So Envision is a collaboration of organizations and staff. And to learn more about Envision, we have both our landing page and our mailing list that you can opt into to stay up to date and knowledgeable about what's happening with us and our staff. And what we're going to share with you today is your who's who, and then for what and where. The basic questions of the CHWs for COVID response and resilient communities. So I'm Sherry Oley, I'm the Envision Director, and my experience in the community health worker field starts over 30 years ago when I was a prenatal care coordinator, and I was helping teen moms as I had that experience myself before I even knew the words community health worker. And as the community health worker movement has grown, it's now come to a place where CHW is a household word more and more. And it's been exciting to watch that growth and to be part of it with this latest iteration of the work with the CDC. In addition to doing CHW work as a prenatal care coordinator, I've also walked the streets and have been under the bridges with people experiencing homelessness. I've run psychiatric hospitals and clinics and shelters, and I've co-created and managed a Promotoris program, training CHWs and CHW supervisors in core competencies and data collection. Through all of this, advocacy and policy work has been crucial for success, and CHW professional and financial sustainability is my passion. So I bring all that to this work, and I am pleased to introduce myself as the Envision Director. And this is my 4th week on the job as director, and very excited to be in this platform with you all. many of you have been chiming in the chat, and I really appreciate seeing all the familiar and new faces. So keep going. Throughout this presentation, the chat is going to be your mechanism to communicate with us, to ask questions, and to lift up suggestions and comments. So today, the CCR organizations and supporters find ourselves more than halfway through the first year of this funding opportunity. The first 6 months was a time of hiring, creating work plans, and finalizing budgets, and determining collection methods and data sources for reporting, evaluation, and performance measures. The purpose of this webinar is to take a pause and ground ourselves for both those that have been in the work since August of 2021, and especially for those newly joining the team, and even for those yet to join the team and are watching this webinar from the future. Let's pause and familiarize ourselves with the resources, both human and electronic, available to support the work for the remainder of this year and into the next too. This is our Quick Start Guide 2.0. We introduced our Quick Start Guide 1.0 during our first webinar with you all. And you can access both this Quick Start 2.0 as well as 1.0 in the Envision landing page with a link to our Google resource folder. And we'll drop that in the chat now.
Thank you
and
for Tony. This is
hello, welcome to the webinar. Both will be posted into the CDC Awards Management Platform app at the conclusion of this webinar as well. The Quick Start 1.0 similarly showed resources and due dates. The Quick Start 2.0 shows the current status of who is who and what's what and where the resources reside. Taking a look over at the first column of the who's who, you see who's on your team. Your team includes your CDC CCR staff, which is your project officer, subject matter expert, evaluator.
Sorry, Marian, I'm gonna call her.
Isabel, we can hear you talking, so if you could please put yourself on mute, that would be great, much appreciated. Thank you. In addition to your CDC staff, there's also the Envision staff, and you will meet them today. And the Envision staff consists of myself, as well as Courtney and John as support staff, our trainers, Jamal and Leslie, as well as our coaches who are on today, Lisa, Renee, and Julie, and others, and more to join. In addition to Envision as your training and technical assistance support, you also have technical assistance support from the evaluators. And the evaluators are from Washington State Evaluation Partnership and Arizona State University. And they'll be on today as well to introduce yourself. And the who's who of CCR would not be complete without all of you. So the 2109 recipients are also in AMP and can be found at the link that we shared at the beginning of this session on the CDC CCR webpage. So what's the what of our work? We're going to frame that today in 3 buckets: COVID response, CHW workforce development, and evaluation. And during our time together today, this webinar will point you to the resources that have been created and identified in the first 6 months of our work together. And you will be finding those things in 2 repositories, the CDC AMP pages and the Envision landing page, as well as websites of our partnering organizations in this work that elevate community health worker work, both for COVID response and for the workforce overall, the National Association of CHWs. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to Jamal.
All right, thank you for that, Shirley. And now, just quickly, we're just going to take a look into the who's who of the Envision team. And over the next few slides, you will get a deeper introduction to our team and the resources for recipients. And this is including our CHW Council, our coaches, our trainers, diving into, community of practice facilitators, communities of transformation, and evaluation and technical assistance. So now to get right into our CHW Council. So, like I said, now we'll introduce the CHW Council. The Envision CHW Council is CHW led and is rooted in the Envision mission to elevate communities most affected by COVID and to do so in the most equitable and effective ways possible, and also lead with equity. Members of the CHW Council support the overall work of Envision by bringing essential voices to the table, helping to define the Envision mission, advising on grantee growth opportunities for authentic CHW programming, lifting up diverse training and TA providers to be connected with CDC, CCR 2109 grantees, ensuring that Envision CHW training and TA center is accountable to the APHA CHW self-determination policy. The CHW Council was established in the fall of 2021. And to date, there are 8 CHW Council members who have been dedicated to building the foundation and informing the direction of this work that we're all doing. The CHW Council has been convening since October, and we're proud to have some of those members of the council joining us today during this webinar. And we'll have some time just after a few more information for them to come off and introduce themselves. We are currently seeking to increase the council from 8 to 12 members. And this expansion process is planning to start in June, and the term to start in September. And that will be our year 2. And by the end of 2022, this expansion will be a representation around geography, age, experience, gender, sexual orientation, race, population served. This expansion is also to include CHWs serving on component A and B initiatives. Like I mentioned myself in the beginning of the presentation, I will be transitioning into leadership within the council as the CHW Council lead. And Yasmin, who will be joining us next month, will work alongside me with the CHW Council, as well as helping build our CHW Ally Council. And just want to reiterate that the council is a crucial and important piece to Envision's work and the role, and that we're really focusing on making this all CHW led. And like I mentioned before, I know that some of our council members are here. I know I saw Ella and others. So at this time, if any of the CHW council members would like to just come off mute and just say hello and maybe introduce yourself, that would be amazing.
I can tell you what is amazing, to see myself on the screen. I don't get a chance to do that except when we have the Zoom meeting. So that's a little different for me. I'm Ella Rogers. I'm new to being a CHW, although I've been in the health field for greater than 30 years. And I'm learning a lot. So I'm learning from other CHWs, and it's very enlightening. And I'm meeting other CHWs, so that's a good thing.
All right, Ms. Ella. Shout out to everybody who's here today. My name is Darrell Fox. I've been a CHW for over 30 years, primarily up in New England, Massachusetts. For the last 4 years, I've been in Georgia, where Ella is also down here in Georgia as well. I serve as a leadership team member for the WASEP, the Washington State Evaluation Partnership, as well as a member of the Envision CHW Council. I'm very happy to be here, very happy to learn alongside you, and also to offer the support from any way that I can. So thank you so much, and shout out to the Envision team. Thank you, guys.
Hello, Can you hear me? Darrell, you finished? I'm Catherine Haywood. I am in New Orleans, Louisiana. I am the Executive Director for Louisiana Community Health Outreach Network, acronyms LaShawn for short. And I'm also a community health worker, and I have been one for more than 35 years now. I keep trying to count, it's hard. But anyway, I want to say hello. I am a part of Chw. I'm on this council and a number more. So there you go. Hi, everyone.
I think that might be all the council members we have on, unless it isn't. If it isn't, y'all can definitely interrupt me and come off. But yeah, that definitely put me in an even better mood just to see our council come off mute and just share a little bit about themselves and really bring to life what we're doing and be able to just be on this webinar. Thank you all for that. So now we are going to move into our coaching team. And I'm going to hand it off to Lisa Renee to start that off. And
thanks, Jamal. So I'm Lisa Renee Holderby Fox. I am the Envision Program Manager. I am also a community health worker. I've been a CHW for over 30 years now. Also getting my start in maternal and child health, much like Sherry, and also did that work initially because I was also a teen mom. So I bring a lot of various experiences with me to this work. Myself and my colleague Julie will be talking about the coaching effect of Envision. But before we do that, I'd like to take a moment just to introduce the team as we are as of today, as of this moment. So from left to right, there is myself, Andrea Haywood, Judy Smithwick, and Maria Martin. We are all based at the Center for Community Health Alignment in South Carolina, the University of South Carolina. However, I physically sit in Stone Mountain, Georgia. And we're also bringing on 3 additional coaches in the very near future, as well as subject matter experts, which we'll have access to, you all will have access to. And you'll hear a little bit more about those subject matter experts shortly. The current team members are all community health workers with many years of experience, including outreach, mentoring, community health worker program, policy, and curriculum development, and experience building CHW organizations. And these are just a few areas of our collective experience. We're a diverse team with many strengths, and we look forward to working with the CCR recipients and your partners. Next slide, please. The Envision coaching approach, like everything we do, is framed with a health equity lens. Coaching is grounded in uplifting the expertise and experience of CHWs, others with lived experience, as well as ally leaders in the field. We value the knowledge and expertise that the recipients and their partners bring, and we seek to enhance that expertise and ensure successful programming right alongside with you. The CHW coaches will work in collaboration with CCR recipients to inform program implementation strategies and progress over time. Our work is relationship-based with a focus on co-creation and collaboration. We walk alongside of you as you move towards your goals. Next slide, please. There are several components to our coaching philosophy, and we're going to touch upon those. The Envision coaching team will provide CCR recipients and contracted partners with individualized TA plans that include coaching support, mentorship opportunities, training suggestions, and connection with CHW subject matter experts, or SMEs, as you'll hear us refer to them, to ensure authentic CHW and community engagement and leadership as we move forward with our effort. Next slide, please. And I'm going to tip this over to my colleague, Julie.
Awesome. Thank you so much for kicking us off. As Lisa Renee mentioned, I'm one of the community health workers that's on our coaching team. My name is Julie Smithwick. I am from South Carolina, and I've been in the community health worker field for about 25 years. The last 10 or 12 of which I have been involved in helping to build the capacity of the community health worker workforce, both within a grassroots organization of community health workers and in the regional space of the Southeast and the national space. Lisa Renee and I are both members of the board of the National Association of Community Health Workers, along with Catherine Haywood. And I don't know if Majeline is on or not, but a number of us here are involved, as many of you probably are, hopefully are, in the National Association of Community Health Workers. So we're bringing that collective CHW knowledge and expertise to coach in a peer-to-peer fashion, where we're able to utilize the things that we know and the ways that community health workers work together based on relationships and relationship building and shared knowledge to the 2109 recipient organizations. And as Lisa Renee mentioned, their partners as well. So we are absolutely focused on the grantees. And also we know that a lot of times the grantees or recipients have really amazing partners that help you all do this work. And so our goal is to support your collective team in whatever you may need. So one of the things that we're doing right now is we're reaching out to many of you, and some of you guys recognizing names we may have already touched base with, to set up some initial meetings. And this is, some of these will be in conjunctions with your monthly CDC calls, where you're already on a call with your project officer. Some of them may have already happened because we've been connected in different ways. But through those initial meetings, we want to start getting to know you guys and vice versa, y'all to know us, discussing your programs and helping you think through, like, what are your current needs and goals right now, but also thinking into the future. So as we build that relationship together and our collective capacity, and something may come up in the future, you think, oh, I know those folks. So those are our coaching team. I'm going to reach out to them and see what they think about this, or what's another idea, or how's another state doing this, right? So we want you guys to get to know us and vice versa, so that we've got this long-standing relationship together. So one thing that we'll do in those meetings is look at what your rapid assessment findings told us about, where you are and what are your strengths, what are some of the challenges you may be facing. We'll also work with you guys to determine who of your team members and partners are the most appropriate ones to work with the coaching team. So, sometimes it's the PI, sometimes it could be a lead community health worker or a CHW manager, or it could be one of your partners who's doing the on-the-ground implementation work. So you'll help tell us who you think would be the best group of folks for us to be able to support, and in what ways it would be helpful to you. Like I mentioned, it'll be an ongoing collaboration with our coaching team. And as Lisa Renee mentioned, and I'll just highlight here again, we have a whole database of community health worker subject matter experts. So they're mostly CHWs and some allies as well, that have expertise in various fields. So on our coaching team, as Lisa Renee mentioned, we're very diverse, and we pull from expertise in a lot of different areas. But we know that there are other things or other communities that you may be working in where we don't necessarily have that exact expertise, but we have connections to folks who do. So that's another opportunity beyond our coaching team, is to connect you with somebody who's working in a particular area or topic that you are interested in. Next slide, please. So another way that we work with the 2109 recipients is we help with responses in AMP. So the awards management platform that the 2109 recipients have access to. If you put in a technical assistance request, one of your options is program implementation. And so we have been responding to technical assistance requests related to program implementation since the beginning. And we can, again, pull from our various levels of expertise. All the work that we do is certainly in collaboration with, as we've already mentioned a couple times, many other subject matter experts, but also the CDC staff and the CDC subject matter experts. As Lisa Renee mentioned, we will be working with you to determine how we can be helpful and how we can help you progress towards your goals and your plans, how we may help you fill in any gaps or connect you to any resources or other folks in the field or other recipients that are working in similar spaces. And then on our end, we'll monitor that and help find if there are any other things that we can provide to you. So this is not going to be another deliverable that you have to turn in. This is something that we're going to do in a supportive way. Right now, by all means, you can reach out to us and ask for support, but it's not going to be another thing that you have to keep up with. I just want to make sure that that's clear, so you're not thinking, oh my gosh, another plan that I've got to develop. No, that's something that we'll do with you, and then we'll manage that progress. Next slide, please. So just wanted to end with, some folks say, well, what kind of coaching support do you provide? What does it mean to do like peer-to-peer support, right? So these are a few of the things that folks have already reached out to us on, or that we've been working with partners on already, or that we have helped other organizations previous to or parallel to this work in terms of building up their CHW workforce capacity. So some of the things we've done are we've helped folks review and tailor and edit CHW job descriptions. Some folks have reached out and said, hey, can you help me look at this job description, because I'm not sure if it sounds too clinical, or I want to make sure that this community health worker is adequately integrated and, really intentionally spending time in community. Want to make sure I'm using the right language. That's great. Assistance finding high quality CHW training. Most of you guys have in your budgets money for CHW training, and some folks have reached out and said, well, how do I find training in this area, right? Or how can I find online training for core competencies that meet the CHW core consensus project standards? Again, we can connect you to CHWs who have experience with a particular population that may be similar to what you're working with. We can also help in developing a social determinants of health screening and referral process. And again, this is not an exhaustive list. These are just examples of things that we have helped folks with in the past and currently. Another piece that we're really passionate about, and we know that many of you are as well, is helping organizations that have funding and have resources for community health workers to connect with and build the capacity of local or state CHW networks and associations. So we really, we'll ask, so are you connected with that group? If you're not sure, can we connect you? Is that something you want to get involved in building? Some of the recipients are actually going to help build one in their state, because their state doesn't have an association. So that's really exciting. And our coaching team has experience in helping to build those networks and associations previously. And then another example, and the last one I'll end with here, is supporting organizations for finding professional development opportunities. So it's really important for CHWs. Certainly, we bring a lot to the table to begin with because of the qualities and the lived experience and trust building that we bring to the table. We also typically get training and core competencies on top of that. But we want to keep growing and learning and increasing our tool belt. And it's important that we develop as professionals in our CHW workforce. And so we certainly want to connect you guys with opportunities nationally or regionally, so your community health workers and your teams can continue to develop professionally. So as I mentioned, this is not an exhaustive list. Just wanted to provide you a few examples of ways that we may be able to support you. I think I speak for our team in saying we are very excited to meet you, to see what you're doing, to learn from you and learn beside you. And please feel free to reach out via any of our contact mechanisms and certainly through AMP if you have anything that you'd like to talk to us about. And we'll also be reaching out to meet with you. Thank you. And I will turn it back over to Jamal.
So yeah, like I mentioned earlier, so actually turn it over to potentially turn it back over since we do have, I guess, space for those questions after each presentation. Is there any people on the Zoom or any of our, our recipients or, want to ask the coaching team any specific questions? You can come off mute quick, or you can write something in the chat if there is any burning questions that you want to ask.
Jamal, I can lift up one of the questions in the
Okay.
chat from Peter Powell in Wisconsin, a community health worker in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. He's wondering, does the team work with any CHW anywhere? And also is looking for contact. So how do people get connected to the coaching team? This might be a good moment to talk about the mechanisms of reaching out to the 2109 grant managers and then having that be the mechanism to bring in the rest of their team. Anything that you want to add about that process, Julie or Lisa Renee?
Yeah, sure. I mean, certainly if folks have access to AMP, they can submit a TA request through AMP. If not, I'm happy to put my email in the chat. And I think Lisa Renee would as well. You can reach out to us directly.
And to further answer that question for sure, probably yes, the coaches are intending to do peer-to-peer with CHWs. They are CHWs, want to work at the CHW level, the CHW program level, those organizations, as well as at the level of the 2109 recipients and grant managers. Thank you.
I think this might be all the questions we have. Julie and Lisa Renee are putting their contact information in there. Like was mentioned, you can reach out directly for any of those questions or requests. So now we're going to move into our training team. So as we go through our Envision Equity training, just a quick overview. Our trainings that are available to recipients are our monthly webinars, our database of CHW training resources, communities of practice, and communities of transformation. And myself and Leslie are going to dive a little bit deeper into what these trainings are, and have to offer, as well as how you can access them. So first topic is our monthly webinars. So that is the next slide. All right, so might be a little tough to read, but there was a lot of information, especially around time zones, and we can obviously share this out as well. But our monthly webinars, like the one everyone is on today, occur every fourth Thursday of each month at various times and various time zones. And we do record these webinars for recipients to watch if they aren't able to, or if it's not a realistic time, like 5:30 in the morning or 3:30 in the morning. But we are making future plans and adjustments to future webinars to best accommodate recipients that are not in our mainland time zone, and trying to really be intentional and equitable around that, because like I said, it's not always going to work for people, and that's very real and realistic, that recipients who are in these time zones that are not in the mainland can't make our webinar today. So we are planning that and being really intentional around that for our future webinars. And these webinars are focused on information delivery and include COVID response information, subject matter expert presentations, and our quarterly learning collaboratives, which are more discussion based, interactive, and allow grantees to really lean in and learn together. And just a quick future look, or I guess a look into the future. Our next webinar will be in June, and will be centered around success stories and supporting our recipients in preparing for their required success stories. And John will be leading that and helping to frame the best practices for communicating effective and powerful success stories, and what makes a success story more successful and meet those CDC guidelines. And now I'm going to hand it off to Leslie Wolf, who is going to go a little bit deeper into communities of practice and transformation.
Thanks, Jamal. So happy to be here with all of you today. My name is Leslie Wolf. I use she, her as my pronouns. As Jamal said, I'm part of the training team, and I'm the Coalition Building and Training Director with the Population Health Institute in Wisconsin. I am a longtime CHW ally and an organizer by trade and heart, and I've been building community capacity to advance health equity since 2008 through coalition and power building approaches. So those are things that we're definitely bringing into a lot of our training spaces. Concepts that come from power building and coalition building are peppered throughout. So first, I'll talk about the community of practice. This is really an intentional relationship and community building space to dig deeper into best practices to advance community health worker work. And these are small groups centered on peer learning and shared expertise. Communities of practice are established when 2109 recipients request an opportunity to explore a particular subject, or when the CHW Council, coaches and trainers recognize a greater need to tap into expertise and experience of 2109 recipients and partners. The opportunities to participate in the community of practice are sent out through the Envision and CDC CCR listservs. Hopefully those are things that everyone has gotten messages from or opted into. When it comes to the Envision one, there's an opt-in. So the way these work is depending on the needs that are elevated. These are really time limited in a series of meetings. For example, we're currently holding communities of practice focused on documentation that came out of one of the monthly webinars. And for each, there's a small group participating in a series of 3 one-hour discussions. And when we get to the third, we'll determine if any additional meetings are needed. And we are currently planning for a community of practice focused on the 2109 tribal recipients and also one for the territories. So those are coming soon. We'll go to the next slide to talk a little bit about community of transformation. The community of transformation is rooted in principles of power building to advance equity and focused on strengthening the collective leadership capacity of the 2109 recipients and the CHW workforce to create partnerships, policy, and systems changes that ensure every community reaches its full health potential. So this is a teams-based program, and teams are focused on sustainability and composed of the 2109 recipients, CHWs, and community partners. And teams will move through a curriculum that builds a national coalition for sustaining the CHW workforce. And what this means is that there's an emphasis on building skills and engaging with the community from the beginning, exploring root causes, thinking about how to create structural change, developing collective action plans, and building strong multi-sector partnerships. Each participant comes to CHW work with distinct experiences and perspectives, and we want to build on those. So through a combination of pre-recorded webinars, web-based learning community sessions, and workshops inclusive of coaching approaches, peer-to-peer learning and training, we will support community-based teams in building the skills and partnerships to sustain CHW efforts, and also establish and lead an aligned agenda for sustaining the CHW workforce. Our plan is to invite folks to apply. So applications to participate in this intensive 2-year cohort-based programming will be available in July, with a plan to initiate programming in the fall. Opportunities to participate in the community of transformation will be sent out through the Envision and CDC CCR listservs. So I definitely welcome questions that folks may have about Jamal, and I welcome questions about any of the training components, the monthly webinars, the community of practice, and the community of transformation.
I might add, it'd be a great time to add suggestions for any communities of practice that you might like to see as a CCR team, as well as any training opportunities that might be coming up. We did just drop in the chat a flyer that you can use to understand the difference between the training, communities of practice, and community of transformation, and also can share that. So that link is in the chat. And there's a question there for you, Leslie.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Teresa, for the question. The question is, are the community of practice and community of transformation participants expected to be limited? So yes, the short answer is yes, but I'll expand on that. So community of practices really work best in small group settings. If there was a demand for a number of people wanting to engage in a particular topic, we could always replicate that community of practice. So it's limited, but exponentially available based on that need. So always able to replicate that. When it comes to the community of transformation, the hope is that we would have a limited number of teams that are participating as a cohort. And we will be really evaluating the effectiveness and the impact of that first cohort to then size for opportunities in the future. So our hope is that we'll be able to have more than one cohort for that community of transformation based on our evaluation and assessment of how that first one goes. Yeah, great question, Char. So the community of transformation is the training for the transformation of the organization or the community. So this is really a both and. So definitely the idea is that we're going to see transformation, impact, change in community. And part of how we get there is organizationally making change alongside collectively pulling our organizations together to be able to make that community-based change. So it's really a both and, which is why it's a fairly intensive commitment. But the sort of focused outcome is that we would see change in community, that folks in community, folks most impacted by the issues would be the ones experiencing that change and that improvement. Loving the questions. Other questions coming up for folks? I'll echo Sherry's suggestion as well. If you have thoughts, considerations, things that you're hoping to see in training, in our monthly trainings, certainly things that you would hope to see included in community of practice and community of transformation, we really welcome that feedback. You can pepper the chat with that at the moment. That's great. You can also reach out direct to Envision through our email. It's hello@envision, and we will put that in the chat as well. All right, I think then I will hand it over to Victoria and Katie.
Thank you so much for that great primer. There's much to come on that topic for sure. And my name is Victoria Adewumi. I am ecstatic to be with you all today and really glad to also be doing this presentation piece with my dear colleague, Katie, who will introduce herself in just a moment. I am a community health worker based out of Southern New Hampshire. I have been working for various local health departments and nonprofit organizations and have just about 10 years of CHW experience. as well as priority populations that I love. And I really think of immigrant and refugee populations as sort of where I got my start into CHW work. And again, just incredibly glad to be here as part of the WESEP, Washington State Evaluation Partnership by way of the CI Common Indicators Project, which many of you may be or hopefully will be familiar with. We're a powerful collective of CHWs, CHW allies, and researchers that are working to build standardized measures to assess CHW practice. So again, so thrilled to be here. I can go to my next slide. So in terms of our evaluation TA, ourselves and our partners at ASU are working to provide you, as well as our partners at Envision, lots of technical assistance around the evaluation piece of your requirements. And so that looks like webinars, many of which have been held and will be available to you in the coming months. And we really welcome, as Leslie just said, lots of feedback and topics for specific webinars, whatever it is that you need. We want to make sure that we are as available to you and are really able to provide training topics that are going to be of benefit. The other thing that we are really excited to be rolling out in the coming weeks is our Evaluators community of practice, and really giving those of you who might be evaluators or the folks on your team who are primarily responsible for the evaluation requirements an opportunity to come together, to learn from each other. And we're really hoping that it sort of spans the gamut in terms of the experience you have or feel like you may not have in terms of evaluation, and really create a space that's as accessible to everyone as possible. That will be happening. The planning is currently underway, and the community of practice will be in the next few weeks, we expect. And so please be on the lookout from the Envision listserv for more information about that when it becomes available. We are also currently and continuing to respond to TA requests via AMP. I see some of my sites on here, and so it's so great to have you with us. And also we are, and I know I can speak for the other liaisons when I say this, we really attempt to be as available to you as possible. And so AMP or email is going to be your best way to reach out to us directly with any and all of your technical assistance needs. And that also connects to specific individualized feedback and support for all of the program evaluation pieces. So again, we're here to really assist you in the specifics of whatever it is on the ground for your site specific to evaluation that you might be facing, and are just very glad to be able to be on this journey with you. So I will pass it, I believe, to Katie next to talk a little bit about ASU and some other pieces we'd like to share.
Great, thanks so much, Victoria. And hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. My name is Katie Stalker, and I am a member of the ASU evaluation team. I'm located actually in Buffalo, New York, as I'm an associate professor in the School of Social Work at the University at Buffalo. And again, I just wanted to put a plug in, as Victoria already mentioned, for those TA requests. A motto that I've taken on in some of the PM calls that we've been doing is that no TA request is too small. So definitely continue to reach out to us, and sometimes I think you don't even know, like, if you need a TA request. Sometimes your TA request is about not knowing whether or not something right is necessary for a TA request. So yeah, I just want to put that plug in, and I'll be back on in just a couple of minutes, and I'll talk a little bit more about what's what in terms of evaluation. Thank you.
Thanks, Katie. So turning our attention from the who's who, as Katie mentioned, we're now going to jump into the what's what in those three categories, the buckets of our work: CHW, workforce elevation, COVID response and recovery, and evaluation. The what's what of our community work is being provided, the information is being provided in 2 repositories. And I think you're starting to hear that theme going through our conversation today, that there is the Awards Management Platform, or AMP, and AMP is available to grant managers, the 2109 recipients, grant managers and their evaluators, and some select members of the team. And then the second repository of information is the Envision landing page and is publicly available. The reason for this is that we want to have a lift up in a most equitable approach possible. And people also ask us if the information that we are putting out there is available to any CHW doing the work of COVID recovery and building resilience. And the answer is yes. That's part of the equitable response. Just because your community didn't get funded doesn't mean we don't want you to have the information. And similarly, that's why we partner with the National Association of Community Health Workers and other national leads for community health worker work to create more equity in the work and to have information available to everyone. So 2 repositories of information are what we are bringing to you today. And in just a little bit, I'm going to click through some of those so you can see exactly what they look like and where these things are landing. So within these repositories, you can find training and materials for the 3 categories. And if it's in AMP, you can ask to find it outside of AMP. If it's in the Envision webpage and you want it also pulled into AMP, that can happen as well. We want these things to be mirrors and as accessible as possible. All right, in the next few minutes, we're going to cover those resources as well as another resource that's available to recipients, a bi-weekly call that elevates all current COVID information. Next slide. So what have we done so far for COVID? And I had mentioned that this is a recap of our first 6 months of our work, and there have been many trainings and resources posted in both places of the repository. And just to point to a few that may be worth either a revisit, if you already saw them but are wanting to bring in even more, the next layer of the information that was in those webinars, or maybe you're new to the team or just weren't able to because of the sheer amount of work you were doing to click on these and view these. They are viewable now. I'm going to point you to the coping with COVID. And again, take that moment for a pause. We only know that our work is as powerful and able to be completed as we are whole and ready to do that work. And the Coping with COVID webinar shared behavioral health trends and impacts to the workforce, to us and to our colleagues, and as well as how the nation is responding in this emergency as well as other emergencies. What's the typical bell curve for what happens when we're in a long haul like we are now with the pandemic? So I really point you to that resource for you and to share it with actually anyone you love could probably get a benefit from watching this webinar and get that moment of, so that's why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. Another set of resources that were presented was in the CHW vaccine and COVID resources you've been looking for webinar that we presented in January. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now and show you where you can find those things in both AMP and in the resource repository page of Envision. Oops, let me put that away. All right. So here is the home page, the landing page for AMP. Maybe some of you have never seen this before, but when you log into AMP, if you're a grant manager or a evaluator for the recipients, you see these tiles. And within here, you'll find these 9 buckets, places where you find the information. The CHW training, and so all of the pre-recorded, the webinars that we've recorded are here. COVID-19 resources are here, and program measure and evaluation resources are here. Of the trainings that I was just mentioning, I was discussing the Coping with COVID, and you can click here and click right on that title and be able to view it right in your web browser, as well as the vaccine and COVID resources you've been looking for. These webinars are both available here with just a click of the mouse. do my best to be a commercial. When you go back to the main tile, since we're on the topic of COVID, you can also click on the COVID tile itself. And here you see very new resource as of May 20th, Test to Treat. One of the intentions of doing this webinar is to get all those who have access to AMP to go in here more often and take a look at what's available, and also lift up the things that they think are important to share with within this community. So I would highly suggest that when you are through with this webinar and in your home office looking for something to click around in, go ahead and take a look at these resources and let us know what you think. You can also comment and ask to add information here. Now I'm going to click over to the Envision landing page so that you also can see that if AMP is not where you're getting your information from, that it is equally accessible here on this landing page. And here you'll find the who is Envision. And immediately following that is all of our recent trainings. Last month, we did a training on CHW onboarding. But if you scroll on down, you'll find the same webinar, Coping with COVID. Oh, yes, and also to add that they are available in English and Spanish, and you can get the slides here as well as you can get them in AMP. And you can get the Spanish copy in video in AMP as well. And then our January webinar, CHW, vaccine, and COVID resources you've been looking for. And just one other shout out is way on the bottom is the whole staff. So as our staff expands and we bring more coaches on, you can find out all about us there. Should have warned you to close your eyes. I'm scrolling quick up to the top where our information is served. In the CHW vaccine information you've been looking for, two of the resources that were elevated was the National Association of Community Health Workers. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on over to their website and want to elevate their COVID pages. So if you go under resources, first one, COVID-19, and all of the resources that they have found. This site is particularly useful for folks in the CCR initiative in that there are a lot of resources out there about COVID. You can, Google away, millions of resources at your fingertips. What we're really looking to provide you are the curated resources that community health workers find most helpful. And this site, by and for community health workers, is just that. The other site that they point to right at the top of their page is the Vaccine Equity Cooperative, the Vaccine Equity Cooperative. This site is truly that. It's a cooperative. It is crowdsourced resources. And many of you are working with specific populations. And the way that this site is organized, as you can see, is they have organized the resources based on populations. And it's the folks themselves, community health workers are just that, from within these populations that are lifting up these resources. And it is a team of organizations that are vetting these resources before they go out onto this website. In addition to these resources that are specific to populations, they also have bright spots. So what's working? No need to reinvent the wheel. What's working is right here, and we can go ahead and take a look at those and search to your heart's content of the things that you find most helpful to you and the work that you are specifically doing under your CCR funding. If we can go back to the slides, that would be great. Stop sharing. Thank you very much. And next slide. So what does Envision bring to this collaborative work that we're undertaking together in these 3 years we have together? CHW workforce development is at the heart of everything that we do, elevating the workforce, being able to show through evaluation and through reporting that the CHWs who are doing this work are making a difference. Looking to use that as well as the success stories that you're sharing to advocate for additional funding to keep this work going with whatever we need next as a country in terms of either pandemic, natural disasters, or other things that are challenging our communities. And so we really focus on that, that our work is buy-in for CHWs and that workforce development is key to success. We could have all the COVID training that we want, and if yet we don't have well-paid community health workers who are receiving the supports and self-care resources that they need, we're not actually going to get to where we are wanting to get to with our work. To that end, Envision has put forth these 3 webinars that you see here. Just our most recent one that I had pointed out, the CHW onboarding, hiring CHWs, best practices in that place, and job descriptions and such. CHW documentation and referral systems, including social service record locators, was the topic of our March training. And we kicked it off way back in December. So maybe some of you were here, maybe some of you weren't here with us in December, with a playbook on advancing CHW engagement in COVID-19. And that webinar is also listed in the 2 places that we had mentioned earlier, both on the AMP pages and the resources repository of Envision on our Envision landing page. And additionally, a couple things about resources is in the Envision Equity landing page, we have a spot for job announcements for you all as well. Hiring definitely was one of the things that came out as most challenging for recipients as they started to get going into the work and implementing. Good news, bad news, CHW workforce is in high demand, which may mean that you are having to do a whole lot more training or doing a deeper dig for finding the community health workers that are going to support this work. We want to help support that with you being able to place job announcements for your work for CHW work onto the Envision landing page. Additionally, we mentioned that resource folder several times. And I just want to take a minute to also point out that in January, Envision sent out actual paper binder documents, box of goodies to recipients. And in there, we had the starting 5, a binder of the starting 5. And that starting 5 included resources from Envision, from the CDC, from the National Association of Community Health Workers, and from the CHW Core Consensus Project, also known as C3. As well as some policy resources that are lifted up from NASHP, the National Association of State and Health Policy, and ASTO, Association of State and Health Territorial Offices. And those 2 organizations also do a lot of policy work around CHW and tracking of that policy work national. I said all that very fast, way too fast for you to take notes on or to be able to write that down, but don't worry. In our resource folder, that entire binder of the starting 5 is located, and you can go through there and at your heart's content and in your leisure and really take a look at what's most helpful for you and bring to us through TA requests or through your contact with coaches or your evaluation team what you might need additional help or resources on. And we already were on the National Association of CHWs landing page, and on their website, there also is a list of CHW networks and trainings. Great resource for everyone to start there. What trainings are in your state or in your region, and what are the networks that you're working with? Many of you are connected with networks, and if you're not, connecting with those networks, looking at that webpage and finding those networks and making those connections is highly recommended. And NACHWA also does the work of helping networks to begin. So there's another resource for you if you look around and there are no networks in the area that you're working with, to do that work and help each other out that way is also very important. Okay. On that note, I am going to hand this off to evaluation to Katie to add what she has to add around where evaluation resources can be found.
Thanks so much, Sherry. Yeah, so a little bit of what's what in terms of evaluation resources. So to date, we do have one written resource available in AMP, and the evaluation resources in AMP you can find from that same landing page that Sherry showed you just a moment ago. And at the bottom right-hand part of the screen, there's a PM and evaluation box that you would click. So to date, we have some written resources on the CHW Common Indicators. It's a knowledge item. And there you can find information, general information on the Common Indicators project, background, and what those indicators are. You can also access information on how to operationalize the Common Indicators. And there's also links to data collection tools in different formats that you could actually use to collect some of the Common Indicators data. So definitely check that out on AMP if you haven't done so already. I also wanted to highlight several evaluation resources to come. So we are very close in finishing our National Evaluation Plan guidance. So be on the lookout for an announcement about when that will be available, again on AMP. And we are currently working on developing some knowledge items related to participatory, equitable, and culturally centered evaluation. And through our performance measure review calls that are happening as we speak and into the next couple of weeks, we're collecting feedback on what other types of evaluation resources are of interest. So we would welcome any thoughts or suggestions if anybody wants to put those in the chat about additional evaluation resources that we can pull together and provide to recipients. So thank you for that. And I'll hand it back over so we can talk about next steps.
All right, it looks like Sherry's computer may have shut down on us and she's supposed to do this next steps slide. So if I could potentially hand this over to Jamal, I know you've got some content knowledge on this slide. Could you step in for Sherry and kind of go through these next steps here for us?
Yes, I will try to go through this as best as I can, and if anyone on the Envision team has even more context to some of this, definitely pop in as well too. So also actually, yeah, so it would actually be great if Leslie, if you want to maybe just come off mute. And
yeah, you got it. Yeah, we got you. We'll work across our team here. So CHW Council Nominations. So we are looking to expand the council, as we mentioned earlier on, and are welcoming nominations. I believe we have two, is it 2 or 4?
4.
4, yes, 4 seats that we're looking to fill. Also want to note the introductory communication that will be coming from coaches. So coaches will be reaching out, connecting with y'all, as Lisa Renee and Julie mentioned when they were talking about coaching. So look out for that communication. There will be community of practice communications coming out as well. So we will, as things come up, you will be hearing from us for invitation to participate. And as I mentioned before, that's also, two-way. So if there are things that come up where you want to, where you'd hope that we would support a community of practice, please reach out. And excuse me, community of transformation, you will be getting communication from us in July related to that application process. And just a reminder related to the AMP CDC deadlines for the rest of the year one, that your performance measures are due, and following that will be the technical review response, and looking to lift up success stories. Y'all, if there's more specifics, please throw them in the chat. Thank you so much. Great. TA requests for 2109 recipients, please do that through AMP. The registration for the June training is open and is there in the chat for y'all. We'll have some time to dig into some of those success stories, really supporting the way that we're talking about the work and reporting on the work. And if you haven't already, please opt into the Envision listserv. Which there it is in the chat
as well. And we also have somebody from CDC joining us for the June 23rd webinar, and our chief writer, and go through the steps and tips and techniques for crafting better, more successful stories. Moving away from success stories, and we're just talking about successful stories. It's a CDC move as well. So there will be a lot of information shared next month by the team. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for that. And then we'll wrap things up. Sorry, I'm just responding to something in the chat as well. Yes, so like we said, the purpose of, this whole webinar was really just to, give all of you all the resources and be able to have access to these things, or just make it easier or more simpler or just more clear to the many resources that you have through our team. And I know there's been many of links that have been dropped and emails that have been dropped. So definitely take advantage of that and follow those, save those, have your 10 tabs up of each link like the rest of us, and yeah, really utilize those things. But we do have a bit of time, before we go into our poll and really wrapping up the presentation. We just want to take this time for quick questions and clarifications. And before we even get into that, first, I know there was some CHW Council questions earlier around the work and the role, and much of that was answered, but we did quickly, and I know the council didn't know about this, but if, whether it's all of you all or just some of you all, would any of the council members just quickly want to just share a little bit more about their work on the council and what that has been like, and what is the most crucial and important part of being on the CHW Council, just to give just a bigger clarification for some of those questions earlier. And again, that's just, what anyone from the council could just share their work on the council and what is the most crucial or important part for you for being a part of that council, the CHW Council.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'll start. Hopefully there's other team members that can come off mute, but I just want to say that there's a lot of people who talk about nothing about us without us. They talk about CHW self-determination. Those are like concepts to some people, theories, and what the Envision team has been able to do in the staffing and with the CHW Council is to actually be real and be true to nothing about us without us. We have CHW Council members from the very start have been engaged with staff on everything from the logo you see on the screen behind you, the color schemes, the materials, how we depict CHWs and describe CHWs and materials, the trainings that are going on. We discuss pretty much every component and aspect of the Envision group. We also bring some of our knowledge and wisdom and areas of expertise, as you heard from Julie and Lisa Renee earlier. So there are some council members who will be serving and providing some TA alongside some of the staffers for you. I think that's already started happening. So just look at it as the CHW Council is this group of folks who most of us have multiple decades in the field, understanding the day-to-day work of community health workers, of programming. Many of us also have evaluation knowledge, and so we offer some of that. And many of us have provided TA and training over the years. And so look at us as a think tank, a group that's truly bringing to fruition and not just talking about it, but being about it, related to nothing about us without us, CHW self-determination, CHW leadership. That's kind of a big picture from my point of view. Thank you all.
Thank you for that, Darrell. Definitely helpful. Awesome. Yeah. So.
I'll just add that from the Envision team, we have engaged with the CHW Council from day one in formulating every step and move we make moving forward. We are very CHW centric. So the role of CHW Council has been vital in us developing not only our brand, but our messaging and the narrative that we're building around the work that we are doing for elevating CHWs and COVID response. So that's between Darrell and that, we hope that's a vote of encouragement for you to nominate or join the CHW Council, because it is a crucial and vital component for us doing the work that we do to help all the CHWs and 2109 recipients in the role that we play.
Yes, thank you all for that. Thank you, Darrell. Thank you, John. And are there any other clarifications that anyone have, or any questions for any of our presenters before we launch our poll? This would be the time, to ask anyone specifically anything, or write in the chat, or just.
Jamal, if I could just encourage folks that if they have questions or thoughts later on, to feel free to reach out to any of us, and we would be happy to respond as we can.
Absolutely. And like I said, I know there's been emails being dropped, there's links, and there's multiple ways to find all of our information to follow up with those questions that I know sometimes people don't want to ask right in the moment. I'm one of those people too. I'm going to just follow up later. So I definitely get that. So yeah, at this time, I'm going to launch our poll, and you'll be prompted for the survey. Once again, your feedback is super important to us and help us tailor this time together for our future webinars, our future communities of practice, transformation, and our training, our coaching. All the things that you heard today are really guided by all of you as well, and the feedback that you get is our recipient, or the recipients for this. So definitely take a moment to fill that out when I launch that, which I'm doing right now. And then also materials, including Spanish versions of the slide deck, and the meeting recording will be sent out and available on the Envision landing page as well, which I believe had been dropped, if not once, multiple times, and on our Vision YouTube channel as well. And I don't know if that got dropped in. So I'm going to launch this poll now, and if you all could just take the time to do that. And from another device, your polling session is inactive. Okay. Running into a small technical difficulty. Yes. It has been launched because technology did not allow me to do that. So yeah, so that has been launched. So definitely take the time to do that, everyone. And I believe, once those are done, you can hop off. We definitely want to thank all our presenters today and everyone part of the team that gave amazing information and all these resources that are once again available to you all at any point, and definitely follow up with any of our staff and our team for those questions and clarifications that you might have. And thank you all for joining us for another webinar.